Hi, everyone. I'm Barbara Lockwood, City Librarian at Calabasas Library, and welcome to another program into the Spring into Creativity. We are funded from a grant from the California State Library through the Library Services and Technology Act. And as you know, we've had these series of programs throughout March and April. We are having two more coming up. Next week is calligraphy, and then after that, knitting. And the calligraphy kits should be ready by the end of the day today if you want to pick them up from now until next Wednesday morning. And, as always, I'll have a survey after this. If you could fill that in, that'd be really nice. And also, if you want more information about any of our programs, you could always check our website. And so I'm so honored to have Catt Stine here. She's an acrylic artist, and she's going to show us how to do that art. So Catt, go on. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Barbara. It was nice meeting you last week. Welcome, everybody. My name is Catt from paintrightmeow.com. Makes sense. What we're going to be doing today is we're going to be speed painting with acrylic paint. On primary bouquet, primary color, and we're also going to have
excuse me for a minute, Catt. If everyone could just, as Catt's talking for now, can you mute yourself? And then when it's time to ask questions, then you can unmute. Sorry.
No, that's all good. So yeah, if you that way everyone can hear me. You can mute yourself during the screen. I do when we are painting, I will welcome everybody to turn their mics on as long as they're quiet so everybody can hear. So if you do have any questions, just say, Catt, I need help, and I can more than help. I love to have discussion during painting because some of it is very quiet and moving. So we'll definitely do that. If you feel rushed in any way, you're in the right place because it's called speed painting. We're going to be moving very quick through the background, and then we'll do a little bit more slowly through the base, which is the ball jar, and the floral. We have some paints that you should have with your set. And you should also have this waxy paper. This is your palette. So if you haven't already, you're going to be opening your paints and you're going to have your palette out. And every kit should come with 6 brushes. So make sure you have those ready to go, as well as a cup of water. So definitely have water to wash those brushes off. And you also should have some brown paper towels for a little bit of dabbing so that we can get the water off the brushes. Again, my name is Catt, so if you have questions, please just yell my name and I'm here to help. We will have a break after the background to let it dry for a little bit. So that's a really great time to ask questions and see if you need any specific help later on. We'll take another break after that. First one at about 15 minutes. So we'll have 2 breaks, one after 15, one after another 15, and possibly one more after 15. All right, does anybody have questions before we get started? And this is where you would unmute yourself. I think we're all good. All right, thumbs up if you're ready to get started. Woohoo! All right. So we're going to grab the biggest brush that you have. Looks like this one. We're going to make sure that the brushes stay moist. So go ahead and dip that into some water. We are going to grab some blue paint. So I'm going to put the blue right here on my palette for now. So blue paint on the palette. I want you to take one hand and you're going to put it on the left side of your canvas. All right. And you're going to put one dot right there next to your thumb. Now these instructions are very important. All right. Now we're going to take your hand and put it on the other side. So you're measuring the same space. You're going to put another dot next to the other one. right where your pinky is. Okay, looking good. All right, is everybody ready for the most important instruction? Thumbs up. Looks like it. All right, are we ready? All right, we're ready to get started. All right, so now I'm gonna have you grab that blue, and I'm gonna have you just grab a few dabs and put it all over the top part of the canvas. So for a real measurement, it's about a hand up. So I'm gonna put a random amount of blue dabs up at the top. Pretend you're Kandinsky for a moment. All right, now next, I'm gonna have you rinse that brush off. We're gonna be working very fast now. So we're rinsing that brush. Next, I'm gonna grab some scoops of white and put it onto my palette. All right, now next, I'm gonna grab big globs, scientific term, big globs of white paint. And we're gonna put that in the white spaces above. You might not see them. That means my paint is clean and good. So I'm adding big globs of white paint in between the blue ones. And remember, we're working fast on the background because acrylic paint dries really quickly. So big globs of white. You want it nice and thick, like impasto. That's what they call really thick paint. All right, now I want you to rinse that brush off one more time. Dab off that water. And now we're going to take a few scoops of yellow and put that onto our palette. Okay, now that we have yellow, now I'm going to add yellow globs. Now for the yellow, we're only going to do a few. Okay. And you can put them wherever you want them. All right, is everybody really ready now? This is the fun part. This is where you're gonna get a workout. You can use either your left or your right hands. Maybe use both. We're gonna just dip that brush in the water to get it nice and moist. And now we're gonna spread the paint on the canvas up and down. So I'm just gonna keep spreading. And we're gonna go up and down. When it starts to feel sticky, grab some more water and keep on spreading. So eventually, you'll start to see. Someone have a question? I'm happy to answer. If you see it looking more yellow than you want, feel free to add another dip of blue. But right now, we're gonna add water and spread. And dip and spread. And dip and spread. So if you really want this part to feel a little bit more fun than you're already having, use sound effects, and please, please unmute yourself for that. So if I was my toddler, I'd probably say, wee woo, wee woo, wee woo. because painting is fun and it's supposed to be fun. All right, we're not gonna have anybody wee woo. All right, come on, Edie, can you wee woo? Yay! Wee woo, wee woo. We like the sound effect.
What? No, I was told to weehoo.
Wee woo.
I'm having great fun, but I have, it looks like big dots all over mine.
Still looks like big dots. So
My
maybe
blue,
bigger scoops of paint. How about big white paint?
big white. Okay.
Grab big scoops of white and then add more water to your brush and keep on spreading.
Okay.
And it's okay if the bottom is uneven like mine here. We're gonna cover it up anyway. When in doubt, add more paint and water.
Ah,
If you want to show me your canvas, I'll take a quick look at it. And was that you, Nancy?
this is what I've got, dots. Can you see that?
Kind of, sort of.
So I gotta keep adding.
So add a little bit more blue, add a little bit more white, and then keep on spreading, but add some more water.
Okay.
But it looks good, it looks blended.
No, anda de vuelta a ver, probar, por ejemplo, same assistant.
Pues ya estábamos.
No,
Looking good, looking good. And if I'm a step ahead of you, you're in the right spot, so feel good.
This is therapeutic.
Good, yes. It's therapeutic and you get your workout for your Wednesday. And once you're done with the top, we're gonna do the same thing with the bottom, except we're gonna go left to right. So I'm gonna grab
Hasta el bottom.
I can answer questions if you'd like. All right, so for the bottom, I have some globs of blue. Now I'm gonna take even more globs of white. Might need even more white, so I'm gonna grab some more out of my cup. And you can overlap over the background, since this is kind of like our table. And if you notice, I did not wash that brush when, that's a little bright, let's see. I did not wash the brush when I dipped into the white paint. So I just had a blue dirty brush, added white. And next, same thing, gonna add some yellow here and there. Sprinkling it on in. And the last step, we're gonna take some water and we're gonna spread it. Do I have any robots in the audience today?
Any robots?
Any robots? Do I have any robots in the audience? Trick question. I know none of you are robots. I'm not a robot. I'm human. So if you can see, the painting that I did a few weeks ago, it doesn't look like the one I'm gonna do today. I'm feeling a little bit different. I'm a little bit more cheerful. Anything could be going on. It's gonna be a little bit different. So if yours looks different than mine, that means you're right on track and you're not a robot. So congratulations. And after you finish the bottom, you can kind of put one straight line along the top, or you can keep it kind of messy. That's totally up to your preference. And then I'm going to wash that brush. And now I'm going to stare at my painting for about 10 minutes while it dries. I'm just totally different.
I have a question.
Sure.
Can you mix the colors together, like the yellow and red, to make orange? And
Absolutely.
so you could do the acrylics like that? Okay.
Yep, so we're using primary colors, so we're going to be doing a lot of color mixing in the second half. If you want to make the orange now and put a little bit in your background, absolutely go for it. Or you just take a tiny dip of red, put it in some of the yellow spaces that are still wet, and spread it in. You'll get kind of like a peachy orange tone. And it will also blend in with the blue, so be careful. You don't want to make brown. All right, how's everybody doing? We're going to be taking the break right now. So if everybody wants to put their screens on so I could take a look, if anybody has questions, I think now is the best time. Dove Lady, can you hear me now? I just noticed that you said you could not hear me. Okay, I saw you shake your head, yes. Also, if that is a mirror wall behind you, I envy it because I'm starting my own this week. I'm so excited. So, thumbs up.
Esto tiene que bajar así. There you go.
Oh, there we go. They're photos.
Ok, ¿qué más tengo que hacer? A ver, ya
Pero
está.
no, si no haces el de arriba,
Hay que secarlo.
toma.
¿Y cómo hago el de arriba? Ya dijo que dice azul.
All right, I'm checking out gallery mode. So if you want to come on and show me your painting, if you have questions, now is good. And I want to say hi to everybody that I have not yet. So hi, Brennan, Jody, Jay Nevins, Stephanie, Swati, and then let's see, who's this? Sue. Hi, Sue. And hello again, Nancy. Thank you again for joining me today. This is exciting. I get to paint with new friends. Hey, Stephanie, I see that you were late. No problem. No problem at all. If you want to start the beginning, you can. If you want to give me where you're at now, I can kind of give you a little update and how to catch up as fast as you can. That's totally fine.
I would rather not. I would rather watch it from the very beginning and then I could stop it and then restart.
That's a good plan.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome, Stephanie. Thanks for coming. I hope you have just as much fun rewatching this video as a lot of people will. There's some surprises for you. Is anybody's arm tired?
Yes.
Yes. That means
That's okay. I got rid of my dots.
How's it looking, Adia? How are those dots coming off?
Well, I have to turn, I've got mine on an easel, so I have to, can you see it?
Oh, nice. Yeah, I can. All right. Yeah, more paint, more water.
Oh, okay.
More paint, more water. Go up and down. So we'll do the background for another 5 minutes. Oh, great. So they posted the link for where the video will be posted online. So Stephanie, if you want to take note of that link before the chat disappears forever into cyberspace, that would be a good time. And I'm very excited to see the library open again. So great. So if you're also waiting for it to dry now, we're gonna stop touching it. I'm just gonna wash off my brush and add the red to my palette and make sure I have all my paint on my paper palette here. And go back off of, we could pin me to the screen if you'd like again. There you go, spotlight, that's what you called it. So now the most important part of acrylic painting is letting it dry. So I'm gonna let that relax for a little while. I'm gonna put the rest of my paint on my palette, get it ready. Since this is the primary bouquet, we're using the primary colors. So we're using red, medium yellow, and phthalo blue, which is the best blue out there. A little bit goes a long way. Open out all the yellow. And then I'm going to wash the brush. Just scoop out the rest of the blue. And wash the brush. And last but not least, I'm going to scoop out quite a bit of that white. And wash that brush. Wash the brush. All right, how's everybody's paintings looking? Are they looking a little bit more dry?
Yeah.
Excellent, excellent.
Yeah. Sort of.
Mine is also sort of dry. Sort of. There's still a little bit, if it's glossy, that means it's wet. If it's matte finish, that means it's dry.
Yeah.
So we're all right. It's a little wet down here still. Thankfully, the white on the jar isn't hard. You're gonna have a great time with it. So if you mess it up, you just blend it back in. So that's the fun part about acrylic paint. You can go over it. All right. I'll probably give it another 2 minutes. So if anybody has questions for 2 more minutes, we'll let this dry. Or if anybody has some hair dryers, go for it.
Kat, I have another question. Where's the best place to buy the acrylic paints?
The acrylic paints you can buy from any art store. I personally like Dick Blick, but there's local art stores like Carter Sexton, North Hollywood. There's Michael's Arts and Crafts, Hobby Lobby. Any of those places all carry pretty much the same paint, just different brands.
Are they in tubes? Oh, they're big things. Oh, okay.
The ones I use are from Dick Blick, so the big ones. But you can also get tubes. And this is a pretty good one that's affordable. It's called Artist Loft. This is a Michael's Arts and Crafts brand. So that's pretty good. Or on my website at paintwritemeow.com, I have a blog and I have like an Amazon list. So if you like Amazon, you can go on there and see which paints that I've purchased from them before and like. And I could post a link to that. All right, so there's a link up there to the blog post about the Amazon supplies. So if you did want to purchase more, or you can purchase supplies from me, I also ship. All right, 2-minute mark has struck. How are those paintings looking? Are they a little bit more dry? I see some heads bobbing. All right, we're ready to move on to a little baby brush.
Baby brush.
A little baby brush. So we're gonna start small because we can always go bigger. So we're gonna start small.
The smallest one?
Yep, the teeniest, tiniest brush. This one would be our little sweet pea. So we'll call this our little sweet pea brush. That's what I call my baby. I'm pregnant right now. I call him my little sweet pea.
Aw,
Thank
congratulations.
you. That's why I'm glowing. I swear. It's not the lighting. So a little sweet pea brush. I'm gonna make sure it's a little moist, so I'm dipping it in the water. And if your water is blue, perfect. It's not gonna mess with your paint, so don't worry about that. All right, so I'm gonna grab a little bit of white paint. Now here's a trick when you're using small round brushes, like sweet pea. We're gonna put the brush in the paint and we're gonna roll it. So I'm kind of twirling the brush with my fingers on the paper. So when we twirl it, you'll have a nice point at the end. So it's not a big glob. It also works better when you say it just like this. You gotta say, twirl it. So if you wanna practice and do it unmuted, please do. It works like a charm. Twirl it. Okay, now we're gonna do a little bit of measuring. If your paint is wet, do not put your hand on your canvas. I've needed this reminder, so I'm just gonna remind you again, do not put your hand on your canvas if it's wet. So under the bottom, there's about 3 fingers. So I'm gonna float my hand above the canvas and I'm gonna put 1 dot. So I put that tiny dot, 3 fingers above the bottom of the canvas. Okay. And now we have 1 more measurement here. It's a whole hand. Now, please note my hands are small, so feel free to kind of gauge where you want to go. If your jar is bigger, that's even better. If your jar is smaller, that's okay too. Big jar, small jar, they're all jars. So I'm going to float my hand above the canvas, and I'm going to put 1 more dot right there. So we have our dot here, and we have our dot here. If anybody misses anything, feel free to take it off mute and say, what was that last one? But I'll try to repeat myself a few times for you. All right, now next one. This is more of a closed hand. So we had open hand. Now we're gonna have a closed hand. So I'm gonna go on the right side so you can see. So if my middle finger is right at the top dot, I'm gonna have a slightly closed hand. And I'm gonna put 1 dot here and 1 dot here. So you should have 4 dots. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we're gonna start on the left and right dots, and we're gonna just draw a line. You might not even be able to see the white on some of it, which is great. Now don't draw it all the way down to the bottom yet. We're just gonna extend that dot into lines. And I'm using the very tip of the brush. And when you get, it's kind of hard to see that. I can imagine you can't see that white from your screen. So I'm gonna bring the painting up a little bit. Is that better for you? So I have one dot here, one dot at the bottom. I had a dot here and here at the horizon. And I extended the lines on the left and the right. And now at the bottom, I'm going to make a smile. So we're going to smile to the bottom dot. It's okay if it's blending in. You can see mine blending in a little bit. Jars are clear, so that makes sense. And when it's dry again later, we'll be able to go back over the jar and put the white paint. So the white goes all the way up to here. That's very hard to see. And now we're going to put shoulders on your jar. So at the top of those lines, little shoulder there, little shoulder there. It should be right at the dot line or right above it. If you're not directly in front of it, they might look a little off. So there we go. So now we're going to go up a little bit for the top part of our jar. So we have two lines at the top, 1 and 2. And now we're going to do 2 more smiles. So one at the bottom, and the bottom should connect with your dot. And the top one, same thing, except there's no dot. So we're just going to make a smile. And that's normally where most people have questions. So if you have questions with that one, feel free to come off mute and say, hey, Kat, I want help. All right, now we're ready for the next part. So right now we still have white on our brush. That was just the back of the jar. So we're going to move away from the jar now that it's etched in there. We're going to wash that brush. And now it's time for some color mixing. So we're going to make green. And I'm sure you know that you use red and, I'm kidding, you use yellow and blue to make green. So we're going to use a lot of yellow. So I'm going to move a little bit of this yellow off to the side. Probably some good scoops. I'm using the same sweet pea brush. And then I'm going to start with a little bit of blue. So just 1 scoop of blue. And I'm going to mix it in, see how that looks. It should be really dark. So 1 scoop of blue with 5 scoops of yellow is a really, really dark green. And if you want to unmute yourself, I can help you get your colors corrected if you need. So we mixed yellow and blue, about 5 scoops of yellow and 1 scoop of blue. Now I'm going to put a little bit of white. So I'm going to grab a big scoop of white with the sweet pea brush. And I'm going to mix that in. So now you're going to have a light green. It's going to be like a, kind of like a sage. And if you want it darker, you can add a little bit more blue. More yellow, add more yellow. All right, and next we're gonna start drawing all your stems. So when you're looking in a jar and you have brushes in it, or stems, for example, it's not perfectly even. They kind of get skewed from the lid area and the bottom. So don't worry about them being perfectly straight. They kind of get a little wonky, for lack of a better term. So I'm going to start at the bottom, and I'm going to go straight up to the top. And if you use a little bit of pressure on your brush, you'll have a smaller stem. If you press down hard, you're going to have a very thick stem. So that's up to you. I'm not pressing very hard because you can always go bigger, but you can't go smaller. And I'm starting from the bottom and scooping up. So we have 3 so far. We're going to keep on going. And for this one, I'm having a lot of paint on the brush. So there's quite a bit on there. I'm not doing the twirl it move. So far I have 6 stems. There's a lot of flowers in there, so we'll probably add a few more. I'm gonna put one in the middle. And I'm also gonna add some foliage leafage. We're gonna add some leaves to these. So for example, on the left one, I'm just gonna kind of add an almond shape. Just to kind of fill them in a little bit. And also, if you want to change your painting, you are more than welcome to. You don't have to have leaves. I prefer leaves in the jar. I like it to look nice and full. A couple more stems. And a couple more leaves.
With acrylics, is it easy to shade?
It's a little bit harder to shade if you want the paint blended in together. There's 2 different ways to do it. You can do it dry with like a scraping. So if you have like a flat brush or a fan brush, that's one way to shade, where if you're really, really far from the painting, it looks shaded. But if you want them shaded together, you want to keep it wet. So you have 2 wet acrylics shaded together. So I would use one color first, and then the other color while it's still wet, and then blend them inside together. Is that the question?
Yeah.
Great. And we will add a darker color to this. So while your green stems are wet, after we put, the ones at the top, we're going to take a little bit of blue and just kind of put that in there too, because it'll give it a shadow rather than shading. It'll be like kind of like a little shadow. So we have a couple of leaves, a few stems. Now I'm going to put a few of these stem lines in the top part of the jar. So this is where they're okay to get wonky. So I'm just going to alternate the way my brush moves and put them in random areas. Because when you look at a jar, they're not in the same place that you would imagine them to be. All right, and last but not least, we're going to start our stems going up into the top. So we're gonna have short stems and long stems. So I have a short one on the left, and short meaning about 4 fingers length. And the long ones are about a hand, an open hand. So open hand length. Our hands are great for measuring things. So I put another short stem, another long stem. You can cross them over. I'm adding a lot of paint to the brush. And some of the stems are taking 2 coats, so I'm going over them again. And if at any time your paint feels wet or your brush feels like it's sticky, I'm sorry, if your paint feels dry and your brush feels a little sticky, make sure to dip in the water, mix it into your paint a little bit, and that's going to help it spread much more smoothly. It should be fluid like chocolate pudding. That might be a good consistency. A wet chocolate pudding. Not a mousse, definitely pudding.
Does it ever run like water paint?
Mm-hmm.
It can.
Mm-hmm. Especially if it's tilted up like this, if there's too much water in my paint, it'll drip a little bit, but it should be thick enough to stay still.
Is there a way of grabbing it if it drips?
Yes, yeah, 1 paper towel, 1 blot, or a Q-tip or a cotton ball, 1 blot.
Got it.
And then always fix the area too. Like it's very, very nice for like once it's dry, you can paint right over it with almost any color. It'll cover it up. White paint, let it dry completely, and then put your new color. All right, so we're doing more stems. Get a few more up there. And if you notice, I'm not counting the stems. Don't count them. I'm not going to count how many I painted because my painting is not going to be the same. It's going to be similar, but not the same. But that's how we like it. If it was identical, it would be boring, right? All right, and I'd also like to put a little bit of leaves up here to kind of fill it in. So I'm going to make a little almond shape here. And then I'm going to fill it in. Do a couple of them in the middle. So I have 2 leaves in the middle of that bunch. And then 1 off to the side. All right, so once you have your stems in there, we're going to wash that brush and immediately move on to the new flowers. So we're going to start with the big yellow ones, and we're going to get those blocked in there. Let's see. I'm going to go to the second round brush. It's a little bit bigger. This one's like a toddler compared to the baby brush. I'm going to make sure it's wet. Dab off any extra water. And for this yellow, I'm gonna grab a lot of yellow. So I'm gonna grab a big scoop. So nice big scoop. And you're gonna find your dot. That's gonna be the middle of your flower. So I put one right up here at the very top of the tall stem. And I'm gonna start from the outside and I'm gonna scoop in. So these are like mums, like chrysanthemums. So I'm gonna do a scooping motion. So scoop, scoop. Kind of looks like a C, but you can't see that. So let me get closer. So that's what I mean by a scoop. It looks like a C. And you're gonna scoop a whole lot. So let's start scooping. You can have them spaced out. And then you can add more. The top ones are less, they're less like a C. They're just kind of like little fireworks sticking up. I'm gonna move closer because yellow is very difficult to see on that camera. So outside in. Okay, now while you still have yellow on the brush, you're gonna grab some white paint. So grab a dip of white. So I have a dip of white on my yellow paintbrush, and I'm gonna add that right in on top. And that's how you do your blending or shading. So you'll see that the white starts to blend in with that yellow really nice and pretty. I'm gonna take another dip of white when I run out, trying to make it not glare. It looks really, really white in my camera. There we go. So you can see that it starts to blend in with that yellow. And same thing goes with the flowers. You can always start small and you can go bigger and bigger and bigger.
So how thick is the white paint right now?
So right now it's pretty thick. Trying to zoom in, you can kind of see where the yellow is really thick in there.
That's amazing.
Thank you. So it blends in, it makes a really nice light yellow, like a goldenrod almost. And then we're gonna do the next yellow flower right over here in the middle there. So I'm gonna grab a bunch of yellow first. I'm gonna put the dot for the middle so I know where to go. You can pick a dot wherever you want. If you don't want your yellow flower right there, you can pick somewhere else, but that's where I'm putting mine. And we're gonna start scooping. If the green blends in with your yellow, even better, it'll give you some more textures. And you can probably see that a little bit better. I'm working on getting a second camera for my studio. So I start them spread apart, and then I'm gonna keep adding more. So petals are spread apart, and then I'm gonna keep adding more. So same thing, I have a dirty yellow brush. And I'm gonna add white paint to it, and we're gonna go right into that yellow. So you can see where the white blended right on in. And wash that brush off. Now we're getting into red. So we're going to use just plain old red. And we're going to start with our little tiny mums. So on the other stems that you have, we're going to start making the lines. And these are basically a fan of lines. And I'm going to do that all around to the rest. And then I'm going to add a couple in the middle. But I'm going to do the outside first and then go over the green areas. So nice big scoop of red. And we're going to make fans. And making the other one a little thicker. And you're going to do this as fast as you can because we're going to go right over it with yellow so that they have a chance to become a little bit more orange. You can have little ones, big ones. I know it's about 2 o'clock, so if anybody needed to leave, they can. We'll probably do another 5 to 10 minutes over, if that's okay, Barbara.
Yes, that's fine. Thanks.
Excellent. Sure. So just want to let everybody know it's 2 minutes till noon, in case you need to like clock back in for lunch. All right, so I have my outer mums. Now I'm going to do 3 more inside. And again, it's okay if it blends in with the green. You'll just have some extra depth. Those two are barely reaching out of the jar, saying hello. All right, now I'm gonna wash off the red off that brush. And you should still have some yellow left. I'm gonna grab big scoops of yellow. And I'm gonna make some of these mums a little bit orange. So the ones that are up at the top, I'm just gonna scoot right over the top. So you can see that the yellow blends right into that wet red paint. The color looks a little bit different in the monitor for me, not sure about you guys, but it looks way more orange on my painting. You can scoop a couple of times and it'll turn a little more orange, kind of like you're blending right there on the canvas. It's a wet on wet application. So we're going to do the next one. You can pick whichever ones you want to do this to. I'm going to skip one. I'm going to grab some more yellow. Skip another one. And because I don't like symmetry, I'm gonna go right to the next one. Not gonna skip it. Do yours feel like they're getting blended pretty good? It's okay if your mic's off. I want you to tell yourself if they're blended pretty good. All right, so I'm gonna wash that yellow off the brush. Next, we're gonna go for white. And we only have 2 steps left. Can you believe that? 2 steps. So I'm gonna grab some white paint with the same brush. My white paint is a little bit sticky. White dries the fastest. So I'm gonna grab a little bit of that blue water and mix it into my paint a little bit to make it a little bit more wet. And I'm gonna do the twirling technique. So if you say it out loud with me at home, twirl it. You have a nice point at the end, no big blob. We're gonna do our little sticks that are off in random areas onto the canvas. So you could pick where you think it'll work best on yours. So I'm gonna do one on the right. I'm gonna press the very tip of the brush and then pull the paintbrush away from the canvas as I move. So I'll do one more close up. And that's how you're gonna get that fine point at the end. So I'll do one more up here. So I'm gonna press the paintbrush in, pull, 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 and lift the brush away. So think of the pressure that you're putting on your brush. Push, 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 and then pull, pull, pull. And I'm using the very tip of the brush, so perpendicular angle. So I have 5. 1, 2, there's one up here kind of hiding, 4 and 5. I heard it. Ugh. It's okay if they're thicker, you'll just have a bigger stick. You're welcome, Brennan. You're welcome, Swati. They might have left already. All right, so the next step, now I have plenty of paint on that brush, and we're gonna be stamping the side of the brush. So I'll do a couple up close in a dark area so you can see them. So I'm going to press the side of the brush right next to that white stick. So I'm taking that brush and I'm pressing it, and it will make a little triangle. It kind of looks like an almond or candy corn, because when I'm pregnant, all I think of is sweets like pudding and mousse and candy corn. And we're gonna do the same thing on all of them. So keep on pressing. You could get quite a few of them out of one brush. And if you wanted to switch to the sweet pea brush to do small ones, totally fine. Once you get the hang of stamping, it goes really fast. Now I'm gonna flip the brush around. Now I'm gonna use the back of the brush real quick. There's still paint on there, so be careful of your hands. I'm gonna use the back of the brush. I dipped into the white paint, and now I'm gonna put a few dots, just for fun, underneath. Gives it a little bit more fluff. And I'm gonna put those along all the stems on the white stick. You can go right over the flowers if you want. Feel free to dip your brush back in that white paint to get more. We should have some fun little white dots. And before I forget it's there, I'm gonna eat the paint off the, I'm just kidding. I'm not gonna eat the paint off the brush. Don't do that. It's non-toxic, but it also does not taste good. So don't do that. I'm gonna wipe the brush off. So I have no paint on the back of it. So I make sure not to get it on my clothes. Because I'm a clumsy person. I might do that. Yeah. All right, are you guys ready for your last step? Very last step, thumbs up. Yes, I love those thumbs. All right, I'm gonna get a little bit of water on the brush. I'm gonna mix it into the white paint like I did before. It was really hard to see white on that screen. Oh yeah. So now we're gonna do the accents on the jar. So I'm gonna start on the top and I'm gonna make a couple of smiley motions there. So I have the very tip of the brush. And sorry, use the very small brush. I'm gonna switch that. We're gonna use the sweet pea again. Okay, sweet pea brush. Very tiny brush. And we're gonna use the very tip. And a tip that is super helpful is if you put your pinky on a dry spot, you can use your pinky as like a base for your finger to be steady, or you can hold your hand up. We're just gonna make a little swirl. So I'm gonna get more white paint. And now we're gonna put a couple of swirls along the bottom and along the top of the jar. If your white paint blends in with your green, wet on wet application, totally fine. It actually looks better than my other painting. So I'm gonna grab more white after every one just because my stems are really wet. So I'm gonna keep adding white. And if you press harder on that stroke, you'll have a thicker line. Remember, think smiles. And then we're gonna add a few near the shoulders of the jar. So I start from the top and swooped down. That one also works with sound effects. Swoop. And I'm going to do the other side as well. Swoop. We have a couple more. Only one long one. And a couple of short ones. Those ones are just straight down. And now I'm gonna add a lot of paint to my, I'm sorry, a lot of water to my brush. So I'm going to rinse it off a little bit. I'm going to take a little bit more water, add it to the white paint, but only a little bit of white paint so that it's really, really loose. Let's see. So it should feel like it's almost going to drip, but it's not dripping. So very loose paint. I'm going to put a little more water. Think melted butter. Melted butter would be perfect. So it's very loose. Now I'm going to press down very hard on the brush sideways, and I'm going to bring that down a little bit. So I pressed down sideways with that brush and just brought it down. So it's going to blend in with that green and look a little bit transparent. And I'm going to add more water to the brush. Go back into that very moist white paint. I'm going to do one more here. So very flat pressing down and scoop. You'll see it kind of looks transparent there. And voila, you just made yourself a painting in 1 hour.
Ah.
In 13 minutes. All right, and now it's time for questions.